Welcome to another high-powered episode of the High Voltage Live Show. I'm your host, Willie Snyder from NEC Code, joining you live from the Mile High City in Denver, Colorado. And I'm joined by my awesome co-host, partner in crime, Mr. King James Stallcup of the Stallcup Electrical Education. And we are really happy to be bringing you this episode every week. Sorry about the little snafu having to go Wednesday last week, but it is what it is. We just had to kind of shift gears. I had a meeting I had to attend, and I was going to be South Denver. James always gives me a hard time when I can't get my butt in gear and get over to the podcast. But it's still a lot of fun doing these. Really appreciate all the participation we had this week. NEC for Dummies has just been growing. I don't know if you know this, but ECD for Awesome Electricians is at 11K. So we're getting about 1,000 a week over there now. It's number one code group on social media, so that's really awesome. Thanks so much for everyone participating. I try to bring the best content I can with code questions every week. I try to stump James every week. I try to, I think I might get you this week. I got a pretty good one. Like, the ones I get you on are usually the easy ones. Like, the hard ones you calculate and get right, but like the easy ones, so that's why I
haven't looked at in a long time.
So I decided the best way to stump you is toss up the easy ones, you know. So I got a little bit of a softball, but it could be a curveball too, because I found out that's the easiest way for me to fool you is to put these easy questions in. And just like what you said previously is just because you think you know the code and you don't practice it doesn't mean you know the code, you know. So right. It's kind of one of those things. I really appreciate all the participation I had on Nat King Code. I hit 10K for like the 5th time this year, which is pretty awesome. I only did it one time last year, and I did it 5 times already this year, so that's pretty awesome. That means I'm reaching people's phones and showing them some sweet content, so I really appreciate that. James has been just busting his butt, getting all these graphics done and getting all this stuff in here. I think everyone's gonna like what James is brought to the table with all these new graphics. We have all these new products coming out, bunch of merch. So I'm real excited. I think it's going to be awesome. James told me that I get like 20% just because I'm such an awesome electrician. So I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks, brother. I appreciate that,
Well, but, I think everybody's going to like all the stuff that we've done, even from the intro that we just had. It's different. I've put a lot of work into this. I've been actually working on it for months and months and months, and that's why everything's coming out so quick. It ain't like I just did it in a week. I mean, I've been working on this for a while, and I wanted to show something here. I put this together. This is the graphic designs and stuff that we'll have out, and it will be on the merch and all that other stuff. But right down below, if you're interested in any of this, you can go to Stallcup Education at .printify.me/products. That is where it's hosted right now. As soon as I get the new website up and running, I actually will have it tied in through my WooCommerce and everything. So, but when you go through this, one of the things I know everybody likes is buying stickers.
So dude, I gotta get stickers, man. Like I get in trouble all the time for having too many stickers on my hard hat.
Well, these are going to be really cool stickers. These are not like what you normally see your stickers. There's a lot of design work put into this, and coloring and stuff that we use throughout the podcast for certain colors and stuff. Whatever we're doing, like we're doing Myth of the Week, I'd always been in green. If I was doing Topic, I was in blue. Then I did a purple for Electric Tool. And then one that I'm definitely going to be getting is a High Voltage Live podcast. We've got a brand new logo for it that we'll be putting out. And then, of course, I know one you're going to buy is the Willie Trivia of the Week.
Oh, dude.
I got you a cool guy with a guitar there.
Yeah.
And
oh, yeah.
Then I did something sort of futuristic for the question of the week. I tried to keep now the one that you actually see for the topic of the week. I actually have another one that'll be coming on for that one, and I'm gonna call it Megawatt. So
okay.
because he sort of looks like Megatron a little bit, so I'm gonna call it Megawatt, since that is a term you'll hear in the electrical industry. And then we have at the top left, the electrical wall of shame's a new one. And I did one for a master electrician, a journeyman electrician, an electrical apprentice. Then I have another one, want your shorts cleared and box checked. I've got one for that. And the other one I sort of likes at the bottom right, which is the electrician. It says 3-phase power source. When you look at the hard hat above, when it comes down below it, looks like there's 3 bars coming down. So that was one. I don't know. I just thought it was cool looking myself. And another thing that I'm going to be doing, and I'm actually in the process of getting this registered now because I hadn't seen it. I'm doing one because a lot of electricians, they play golf. I'm also going to have one for hunters too, and I'll probably call it Skeleton Hunter. And I'm going to have cool designs for each one. These are just the first 3 that I've done, and I've already put them on a lot of different products with cool backgrounds and stuff.
Yeah, dude, that center one's right. And those are stickers?
Yeah, you can get these as stickers too. And the cool thing about the stickers, you can get them where they're the vinyl that there's they're not the clear type. Then we have the clear type that you can put on there too. So there's 2 different types you can buy depending on what you want to put on. And I think on the vinyl ones you can get them 2x2 and 2x3, and then for the clear one you can get 2x2. So
yeah, like, dude, I would probably get that center one for my my golf game because it's pretty dead.
Yeah. It's interesting. I try to put the lightning bolt on there, so it's electrician type. And I'm trying to do everything where it's electrical. This is for the electrical guys. So when you go out there, people see it like, what the hell is that? I've never seen that before. So we're trying to do cool stuff. Here's some of them, showing them on the mugs, like the bottom right one. There's one that's Skeleton Golf, and it's got like a full golf ball with the dimples that wrap around it and everything. And
dude, all that of one them, on the top left, I like that one.
That's Master Electrician there. Dude, and then the one that's
I got to go get my Master Electrician license just to have that. Oh man.
Well, they're pretty cool. The one on the far right top side is the Willie Trivia, so it's got the red background, which sort of matches.
That red lightning is cool, man. I like that.
Yeah, and the other one I sort of like's in the middle. It says electrically charged on the top, and then fully amped on the bottom right hand side, and it's got a cool electricity background to it. So as you can see, I've really put a lot of time and effort into doing these. Now, like these tumblers here, I'm probably going to get a few of these tumblers just for myself.
David Englehart jumps on in. What's up, David? Awesome.
Everything's getting pretty close, brother. We're getting there. And I'm showing all the new stuff that's coming out. We're in the website right now. We got the publications that are 2 of them that are about to be out, and then we're going straight into updating and getting ready for the online, putting it on. So there's
David gets a lifetime subscription to the Vault Online Academy. Yeah, and that's pretty cool, David. Yeah, we should have it ready to go by January.
Yeah, I've got everything. It's this last year I put a lot of time in, and everything everybody's seeing with all these cool graphics and everything that's come out. This has been a culmination of just work constantly. And just me, I'm pretty happy with what we're seeing right now. And I think everybody's seeing all this stuff, from not only being able to get, publications and things like that, but also you can go get all this cool merchandise. And I was showing my friend, he's not even an electrician, and he goes, "Man, I like that one right there." And I said, "Yeah," I said, "That's for electrical." He goes, "I don't care. I want it." And I said, "Okay." So he said, matter of fact, I've already had 5 purchases that have already been
Nice,
bought. And
nice.
they're just like, "Wow, man, I can't believe you done all this." And so I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be interested. Like this one here with a lady, I'm fixing to start putting together the lady ones. So they'll have some cool electrical ones to do, and I'll post that over to uh, the Lady Electrical Apprentice Forum so they can check all this stuff out. So that
Nice.
is my entry for today, so everybody could see what is coming. It's already here, but there's going to be a lot more within the next. By this time next year, there will be so many dang products on there for whatever type you need. I've only done the mugs, the stickers, the tumblers, and the long containers that are double insulated. That's all I've done up to this point. And shirts,
Nice.
polo shirts. I'm going to have T-shirts with all kinds of designs on it and everything. And it's just we're just going to keep growing and growing and growing. I've got another one I'm working on right now, and I'm trying to figure out how to do a really cool background. But it's if you look at the top right hand side, you'll see the high voltage uh, live here where we show how to hook a motor up. I'm actually going to
Dude,
have
that
one
that
for that.
I don't see anybody else having that. Like nobody has the colors to a wedge motor
Yeah,
on
and
their thing. So
we're gonna show that, and but I'm trying to do something really cool in the background and everything. But now the stickers are just like it. I might do a little, coloring around it and stuff to give it some pop and stuff. But everything I do, I try to give it good pop, where it really looks cool, and where when you purchase it, you're like, man, that's cool looking. So
So I want to tell everyone that hasn't followed us very much or anything. I have a high voltage live show on my hard hat, and I was in the hospital working at a hospital job, and where I was in the elevator with like the public elevator. One of the ladies is like, "Oh, Marge, will you look at this guy? His nickname is the High Voltage Live Show." I just started laughing, and she's like, "What?" And I said, "Oh, that's our show." And she goes, "Oh, well, you know, I think you should say High Voltage Live podcast." And I was like, "All right." So James put High Voltage Live podcast on here, but I call it the High Voltage Live Show. But it is also my nickname, so if anyone just screams High Voltage Live Show, I might just give a big shout out. But we did the meme last week. Was it last week? We did the High Voltage Live Show, but one of the weeks we did the High Voltage Live Show. This week we're not trying to like make fun of anyone's religion or anything. I was almost just making fun of the picture of what they said, but this is a big shout out to Mikey Lynn. I stole it from Mikey Lynn, and he might be in here watching tonight, but pretty awesome. Thanks for letting me steal the meme of the week this week.
all right, let's roll it.
So it might be kind of hard to see, but like when you see all the other trades, just like in awe that they have temporary light. I mean, you would not believe how serious that gets on some of these projects because a lot of the GCs are like, hey, these trades are responsible for bringing their own task lighting,
Mm-hmm.
and they expect us to kind of light the whole building. And when you get in some of these like million square foot building, like you can't light everything. The only thing you could light really is the corridor,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's kind of a joke that I was just doing. I wasn't trying to, rip on our Lord Christ. I was just trying to say, I think it's funny, like when he walks in the room, then you got temp light. There's been times before where guys have said, "Hey, I need temp light," and I literally ripped a emergency light off the wall, handed it to him, said, "There you go, got 90 minutes."
Temporary light.
Yeah. They're like, "Put it back when you're done."
That's funny. All right, we ready for the myth? We got a good myth this week.
Oh yeah, loving it.
Even got new intros and everything. So here we go.
It's time for Myth of the Week.
All right, this is totally awesome. A lot of the guys out there, they really like to size to the minimum, which I think is totally fine. I have no problem with sizing to the minimum, but you have to kind of realize that could have some repercussions when you start getting into this. So if you go into table 250, 122, it'll basically give you one equipment grounding conductor that's compliant for 600 amps and another different size equipment grounding conductor that's compliant for 800 amps. So you have two different sizes that you have to look at. You have to think, well, am I going to size to the minimum? What happens with this adjustable breaker if you have to go larger than 600? Regardless, you're permitted to protect the conductors at whatever. The reason I put the unknown load is, this could be like some kind of an industrial AC unit, and they could say max breaker 800, minimum conductor size 600. Well, guess what? You're totally fine with having conductor size for 600 with the equipment ground size of 600. Totally fine. Overcurrent device can be set to whatever max breaker is, and you're good to go. But in this case, we don't know that. So it's kind of it's kind of a we just started like a few minutes ago, so it's all good, bro. Well, you didn't miss much. You can always go back to YouTube and check out our beginning, our intro and stuff. But I'd say it's been only like about 12 minutes or something. But anyway, so this is an adjustable breaker. It's adjustable from 600 to 800. What a lot of guys mess up is they size for the minimum, which they're sizing for the 600, and then all of a sudden they have to change that breaker capacity to like 620 before they do a load calc or something. And so then they have to kind of eat crow and realize that they sized the equipment ground conductor wrong. And so that's the kind of things we're trying to help you guys avoid, in the future. James has a whole bunch of stuff that we had some, there was some YouTube personalities that were kind of running this whole thing, and in my opinion, I don't feel that this was covered correctly the way it probably should have been. So I'll just let James kind of take it from here. I kind of tagged you on it, James, and said, I don't know, is this all right here? I mean, am I wrong over here?
It's interesting because you had brought it to my attention, but I've also had two other people that contacted me about
really
this. And okay. And Bill had told me about it. I guess you told me.
It was like last week, I think.
Yeah, it's last week sometime. He called and I called him back, and he said, "Hey, I got to ask you something." And he started telling me. It took me a little bit to understand everything that was going on. And I said, well, no, that's not correct. And I said, and I explained to him, and I said, all you got to do is look at this section. I explained it. And what's interesting about this is I've already covered this before, but not specifically to this. But I covered up the rounding up and down of overcurrent device and based on the loader, the conductor, and I went through all that. But what happened was I was able to get the audio. And the thing that I find interesting about this, and I've had people send me other stuff too, but they had this particular one, he's going to come on. He always says you need to consider your source when you're sourcing out who you're going to listen to. Well, I'm going to agree with him. You do need to consider your source. So what we're going to do, we're going to play some of his audio. I've got it in 3 different clips. It's about 12 minutes total. And I'm going to break it down and explain why what he's saying isn't correct. Okay. And I always believe you gotta understand where their points come from, and then you listen to the other side. It's like going to court. There's 2 sides to every story. So you need to hear one side and then hear the other side and let it be explained and see what you agree with.
I think what really stood out to me was just how it didn't sound like whoever was asking this question was like really the person in charge on like an industrial site. Because I don't really think this individual's ever really worked on an industrial project, because this doesn't sound like they know the terminology very well.
It's true. And based on just your question, I can tell you engineers, they would automatically size everything to the max at 800 amps. They would not go down. That if you're in any industrial, large commercial, I'm telling you, that's how they do it. And when I used to do plan review for the city of Grapevine, if they had something like this, I would automatically tell them you need to, but I never saw them go lower, but I would tell them you need to size for the max, because from a city standpoint, I'd be looking at somebody could go and dial that up and not know.
Yeah. Well, and there's certain other people that say that you'd only have to size it for 600 because they wouldn't have a stamped set of prints that you approved. Which I was like, that's ridiculous. I've never heard of that before.
I never heard of that.
Because I was like, the inspector would be inspecting it based off the stamped set of drawings, which, in my opinion, would be at least more than 600.
Sure.
So I feel that circuit would need to be sized better, but
I do too.
I guess we'll listen.
Let's listen to the audio, the first portion, and then everybody pay attention, and I'm going to break it down for you.
And look at that. And it goes on to say again that in accordance with 251.22, based on the overcurrent protective device for the feeder or branch circuit. So whatever the size it's required in table 250.122, it can't be smaller than that. Now, that's if you run that single. So now the question is, and I'm going to read into his question because now he's going to get into why he's asking this question. Ready? So I just wanted to lay that groundwork for you. It says the code reference to single wire type conductor shall be permitted. The current installation utilizes two 2-aught aluminum, okay, one for each set. Okay, so that's what's currently installed. We already covered that. It says once terminated, the parallel conductors will provide the equivalent size greater than the required 3-aught when comparing the conductor's circular mills. And that is true. So a 3-aught is 167,800 circular mills. And all you got to do is go to Chapter 9, Table 8. You can see that. And the 2-aughts is 133,100. But since we've got 2 of them, then it's going to be times 2. So that's a 266,200 circular mills, which is almost 100 mils, circular mills greater than the 3-aught. And on the surface, you would say, well, this is okay. This has to be fine. I'll just parallel my equipment. These 2 parallel equipment grounds is going to give me more than what's in the table. Well, the problem with that is we have nothing here that lets me do that. Because that would mean that I'm going to allow equipment grounding conductors that were smaller than what's in the table 250.66. Remember the general rule? The general rule up here in 250.122a, it says that the copper, and we'll skip the other ones because they're not relevant here, the copper equipment grounding conductor of the wire type shall not be smaller than shown in table 250.122, period. And the conductor size that's required in this table for our situation, that 620 amp overcurrent protected device, is going to be a 1-aught copper or a 3-aught aluminum. Okay. So we're at the 1-aught copper and a 3-aught aluminum. So we're doing aluminum. And I don't know if I said copper earlier for that, whatever I was talking about, but this is all aluminum. So again, I think I said aluminum everywhere, but I was circular mill wise, I might have said something about copper. But and again, these are all aluminum conductors. So for that 800 amp overcurrent device, which is where you're going to be between the 600 and 800 in that table, 25122 table, that's going to force us to be a 3-aught aluminum. So there's nothing in here.
Okay. Now, let's take a look at this now. That's just the first part I want to address. Now, first of all, he's talking about circular mill. Let me just say this. Circular mill doesn't have anything to do with it. Okay?
100%.
You do not size anything based off the circular mill. And I'll show the only time you do where it tells you to do that, and that's 250.122B, where you've increased in size, and that could be the voltage drop, correction factors, adjustment factors, or both, or it could be all three of them. But that's the only time you go over and look at Chapter 9, Table 8. Now, I want to point something out here. When you go in and you start looking, and let's just do a hypothetical because we're going to get into this in a little bit, and I'm going to show where this isn't correct. But he says, well, what if I take and I'm supplying my loads and stuff, and I size my conductors, and my conductors come up with 620 amps, okay? Now, what happens here, your conductors could be 620 amps, but you also will take and say you're protecting the load. Well, let's say the load was 588 amps. So you automatically know you're going to need a 600 amp overcurrent protection device, correct? Because you're protecting the load. Now, this is what I brought up to Bill when he was asking me about this. And the other two that called me, I said, well, let me ask you this. If I go over and I look at 240.4B, let me move that thing up at the top so everybody can see that.
No wonder you didn't answer. You were caring about the other two people, not me. Come on, man. No, I'm just kidding. It's all good.
Let me move that overlay. There we go. Okay. So when you look at 240.4B, it says up at the front, it says the next higher standard overcurrent device rating. And then it says above the ampacity of the conductors being protected shall be permitted to be used. Now, what they're telling you here is you can protect the load or you can protect the conductors. Now, if he says I'm going to protect the load, then he's sizing the equipment grounding conductor based on what? A 600 amp. And then he'll go in this a little bit. He says, well, let's say that I turn up that adjustable and I turn it up to 620 amps. He says, well, now I have to take and I have to resize the equipment grounding conductor. And that
is like the stupidest shit ever. Like, if you ever been on an industrial plant, we got Dom in the house, brother. Right on. Thanks for jumping in, brother.
Now,
but the whole thing that pissed me off about this is you've never been on an industrial site when you see, like, there's times where we run miles of tray cable. You are not going to miss that sizing by 20 amps. Like, that's the stupidest thing you ever heard. And then, for one, there's nobody that's going to ask that question in your little ask question portal. Like, I mean, I was blown away. I would be embarrassed if I asked that question. Like, I mean, oh yeah, now we had to turn it up. Well, that means you didn't follow the engineer drawings.
That's what I'm going to say. And I'll say this. If he turns it up, it's no longer based on the 600 amp overcurrent device. It's based on the conductor. So the size of the equipment ground would be based on a 700 amp overcurrent protection device and not a 600 anymore. So if I come over here, I'm just going to go to the table real quick. But if I go and look at a 600 amp, and let's just say he's using aluminum, it's a 2-aught. But as soon as I go up above that, now you would have needed a 3-aught equipment grounding conductor. Okay? Now, I want to go back just right here. When you come over and you're looking at the size of equipment grounding conductors, if you go down to 250.122F, it talks about your conductors in parallel. And it could, they tell you, what if I do it in multiple raceways? It doesn't really matter how you're going about it, but you're still going to do it based on what? Table 250.122. Now, I'm going to prove that point right here, because when I go over and I look at 310.10G, and G2 talks about the conductor and installation characteristics are all the same lead, consist of the same material, the circular mill. Now, here's a spot where it talks about them all being in the same and circular mill area, okay? And then you come down and you pick up number 5, and what does it say? Anytime you do anything in parallel, the conductor has to be at least what? 1-aught.
1-aught.
Okay? And then it says, it says, shall be permitted in multi-conductor cables if the combined circular mill area of the section of equipment grounding conductor in each cable compartment. Now you're getting into the circular mill if it's a cable. Okay?
Right.
We're not doing a cable here. We're just going over here and we're running conduit over there, and we will size that equipment grounding conductor based in accordance with what? 251.22. This is not even ambiguous. And you go over there, the equipment grounding conductor is based on what? The size of the overcurrent protection device. It doesn't say anything about the circular mill except for if it's in what? A multi-conductor cable.
Yeah, and I think this is funny because I think he says in here that you can't even do a cable.
Oh, well, I didn't hear. Well, we might hear that on next. I was just going through the basics of what he had here, and when I looked at this,
I'm not sure if you have the same audio that I got because I just listened to the podcast, but maybe
it was
you
just
have some
audio that was sent to me and said, "Could you address this?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll handle it." And then you were looking at doing it with the mist. So I was like, hell yeah, let's run it. I'll explain all this. Now,
good.
If you look at this, so far up to this point, it says when I'm taking and I'm sizing these equipment grounding conductors that are going in these parallel runs here, it tells me to use table 251.22, except when I'm looking at a multi-conductor cable, then I have to make sure the circular mill exceeds. That's it. So, and why is that? Because a lot of times you get in cables, you have a smaller type equipment grounding conductor, and they want to make sure the circular mills and all those cables are enough to take care of that. Okay? That's why they're having you do that. All right? Now let's listen to a second part here.
Okay.
And so that in itself tells you that when you go back to 250.122, the general rule says that the equipment grounds have to be sized based on table 250.122. They doesn't give any provision for me to use a bunch of smaller conductors and bring them together in parallel and create one larger conductor, right? We get that permission.
Right there. You know, he's going in and he's at this point, he's sort of making assumptions because he has not gone back at this point and looked at 310.10G, where it deals with the parallel conductors when you run them in parallel. And furthermore, when you take and let's just say I parallel for a multi-conductor cable, you're going to have to make sure that if you add any of those up together, that circular mill, it's going to have to exceed at least what? 1-aught, because you can't have smaller than a 1-aught in there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let him keep going.
And so that in itself tells you that when you go back to 250.122, the general rule says that the equipment grounds have to be sized based on table 250.122. They doesn't give any provision for me to use a bunch of smaller conductors and bring them together in parallel and create one larger conductor, right? We get that permission for the ungrounded conductor, the hot conductor. We get that for the neutral conductor and grounded conductor, but we're not getting that permission for the equipment ground. And it's being done for different reasons, right? And the other way to make that understood is it immediately goes in and says, sectioned equipment ground conductors smaller than 1/0 shall be permitted in multi-conductor cables if the combined circular mills. So that's where you have a cable that has 3 different smaller equipment grounds, and together their summation is equal to or greater than what the size would be required in 250.122, the table, if it was one conductor in there. So, but this is specifically permitted for multi-conductor cables. It's not stated that you can run a bunch of single equipment grounds and then they get treated as one larger conductor when it comes to the equipment grounded conductor and being able to clear an overcurrent protected device. Okay. So that's not the permission that you're getting there. And I know that people want that to be that way. And so that's what I told you early on. What I struggle with is that, when I'm paralleling, I have to remember that it's all about the fault current and what it can handle. And if I'm running one large, properly sized equipment grounded conductor, if it's already properly sized to clear that overcurrent device, then that's fine. But if I'm going to try to run 2 separate ones that are smaller, if I have to rely on either one, then the problem with that is because they're separated and you have an inductive reactance, and what happens during a fault condition, then again, will they operate reliably? And there's a reason why when we run them in parallel in separate raceways, they had to be full-sized based on whatever table 250.122 is. So it is my opinion, and again, I go back and forth on this one, and I serve on that panel. I go back and forth. I do not see anywhere in there that gives me the permission to take a bunch of smaller equipment grounds, parallel them in order to achieve a larger equipment ground. When we're paralleling with equipment grounds and they're full size at each raceway, that's not paralleling in our mind like what we do for the hot conductors, right? Like what they're doing. They're putting 2 500s together to get 620. We're not doing that with the equipment grounded conductors. So it's not the same principles that we're doing it. So that's where, I struggle. I get the circular mills. I get it's going to be a greater value. But I'm just not there yet. I just don't think that that's what the intent was here. And I think that the general rule states that the equipment grounded conductor cannot be smaller than what's in table 250.122. So in my mind, what's happening is if you're paralleling them and they're smaller, then they're breaching the requirements of 250.122A. That's where my mind goes to. Okay. And I'm hopefully that.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. That's enough of that nonsense.
Dude, to me, right away, I just feel that the part that just is like a dog whistle for me that drives me crazy is him saying you're not paralleling the same way as ungrounded conductors. What do you think this table's based off of?
Well, first of all, let me just say this. Each one of those conduits that you go into, you got to pull in each one of them an equipment ground, okay, in order to get the fault current path back. And it's based on the size of the overcurrent protection device. And 100%. So why he's saying you're taking a bunch of smaller conductors and doing this, I don't even know what the heck he's talking about. Because when I do the ungrounded phase conductors, the ungrounded phase conductors and the neutrals, they're all sized based on the calculated load. The equipment ground is not based on the calculated load. It has nothing to do with it. All it has to do with is the fault current path back based on the size of the overcurrent protection device. So if I took, and let's just say it was 800 amps and I paralleled 3/0 over there, guess what? I need a 3/0 in each one of those for the equipment ground. And that takes care of the fault current path back based on the size of the overcurrent protection device. And the thing is, it doesn't matter if it's in parallel or if it's a single run.
It doesn't matter about the circular mills.
No, it doesn't.
I got a little timeout for Brian Wood. Awesome to join us tonight, Brian Wood. He's like, I wish I could share a photo of a job I did today on your guys' podcast. You can, Brian. We will post it if
we'll show it next week. Send it to us. We'll show it next week.
He's like, I repolled a section of 480 volt mall parking lot circuits and quoted replace and test all feed conductors, including the equipment ground number 6. And why wouldn't you? Yeah, you know.
And that's why we go over this stuff to show, because when you go in and you look at 250.122b, if you look at this and you just read the last part of it, it says, if installed, it says, shall be increased in size proportionally to the increase in circular mill area of what? The ungrounded conductors.
Yeah.
Now why is that? Because the equipment ground is sized based off what? The overcurrent protection device. It has nothing to do with the conductors.
Yeah, and we have this question come in. Is there a happy medium between sizing for the load and sizing for the conductor? I ask because we need to consider heat dissipation, heat transfer on both equipment and conductor. Aluminum has less resistivity than copper, but has faster heat dissipation rate. And is that true or not?
That's true.
That's a good point, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind that if you're doing adjustment factors on that, and I know James is probably gonna go off and cut me off on this one, but the whole thing is like when you have like adjustment factors in there, then that's where you run into some of these problems with the equipment ground, because you're adjusting it, based off the 90-degree C column, all this kind of stuff with the equipment ground comes in, and I think that's where we get in these arguments. Is that it's like your equipment ground is sized based off your overcurrent device. Doesn't matter about the heat the duration factor that you apply for the conductors.
That's correct. That is 100% correct. The only time you're looking at the adjustment correction factors are voltage drop. You would take and do that, and that's how you would go about sizing for your ungrounded phase conductors. It has nothing to do with the equipment grounding conductor at all. And matter of fact, 250.122b, that's what it's talking about here. If you have to increase those ungrounded phase conductors for any reason, then it tells you that size will have to be increased for the equipment grounding conductor based on the size proportionally to the increase in circular mill area of the ungrounded phase conductor. So what I did, I don't even know if anybody else actually shows this in their publications or not, but we have.
Let me look at it real close. Okay, no, they don't.
But when you look at this is 250.122b, and it talks about increase in size. So what we did, we just made up a problem for you. We're telling you here, we're going to go over to this other panel board, and it has 140 amps of continuous load. Now, if I go look at 215.2A1A and 215.3 for the overcurrent protection device, you would take 140 amps at 125%. That gives you 175 amps. If you go to table 310.16, the next size above that, or not above it, actually matches up, is a 2-aught conductor. Okay. Now, let's say that I have to increase this due to voltage drop, or it could be adjustment factors, correction factors, whatever. We have to increase the size of this conductor, and we'll just say we already did the calculation, and we had to increase the size up to a 3-aught conductor. All right. Yeah. Now, what you would do, and you'll see this is exactly what I've been talking about. If you look at table 250.122, it'll tell you 175 amp overcurrent device requires a number 6 copper equipment grounding conductor. Okay.
Right.
Now, if I go over and I decide I need to kick this up to 3/0, then you would go over and you would look at step 3, and we tell you to go look at chapter 9, table 8, and we tell you for a 2/0 conductor, you go over, get the circular mill. It's 133,100 circular mill. And then for a 3/0 conductor, it's 167,800 circular mill. And a number 6, that is the size for the equipment grounded conductor for the 175 amp overcurrent device, is 26,240 circular mil. So now what I need to do is get a multiplier to put on to that number 6 that has 26,240 circular mil. And the way I get that multiplier is taking that 3/0 conductor, which was good for 167,800 circular mil, and I'm going to divide that 2/0 into it, which is 133,100 circular mil, and that's going to give you 1.26076.062. Okay, so you're just going to
sounds about like a 2/0 to me. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So you just take that and you put it on to that 26,240 circular mil, and that's going to give you 33,081 circular mil. Then you're going to look over and find the circular mil that's above that, and it's going to tell you have to increase it at least one more size to a number 4 equipment grounding conductor due to your voltage drop or correction or adjustment factors. Okay.
Nice.
Now,
that's cool.
I've looked all in the code. I went through this to see if there's something I'm missing that he was talking about. I couldn't find anywhere that talks about circular mill except for when I'm doing what? Increasing it in size, or if I have multi-conductor cables. That's it.
Yeah, true. And we get a lot of comments. Appreciate the comment in here. Yeah, and the whole thing is that galvanic corrosion on AA8000 is not as severe as some of the other aluminum compounds of the past. We did that. Well, it was really awesome to have Crystal on here and kind of talk about that. But you do kind of break down that oxide layer when you make splices. But
sure you do.
You know, that's a really good comment, and I have ran into that where the electrical contractors do try to substitute AA8000 for copper, and I'm of the school, I don't think it's any different. I don't have any problem with AA8000. I think it's a great conductor. I don't think, being cheap, I don't think it's cheaper. I don't think, maybe it's cheaper, but I just think it's I think it's the same connection as copper. I've had no problems with it. AA8000 or copper, either way. We hook them up the same, we size them correctly. Never once, James, have I ever put in an adjustable breaker and then all of a sudden go, hey, time out. I gotta I gotta adjust it 20 amps more, because you just caused a major train wreck. Mm-hmm. There is literally it's basically like you said, hey guys, I gotta back my tractor trailer up in front of your train while it's going by, and then next thing, dude, nobody stops. They just run right through your tractor trailer and you're done. So you have to know what you're doing, when you're sizing all this stuff. I think it's funny that people actually argued with us on this, oh, you guys are dummies, you don't know what you're talking about. I was like, dude, okay, so I'm getting ready to build an industrial plant. What do? I send my submission to you as being the AHJ, and then you approve it. And you say, yeah, you can use this equipment ground, you could use this, you could parallel it. You're going to catch all the mistakes. If I can't parallel it, you're going to catch that when I send you in the drawings. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to send me the drawings, and then I'm going to go build it, and then you're going to come out and inspect it based on those drawings.
Sure.
that's how it works. Like Weed Man's like, oh, so you have to freaking have people tell you what to do, huh? And I'm like, no. I was like, that's just how it works. I mean, I send it out to electrical engineer. Electrical engineer designs it. Electrical engineer sends it to you. You approve it. You send it to me. I build it. Then I install it, just like you said I should install it. Then you come out and inspect what I installed. And then I give you back the prints and say, here's all the changes I made to the original engineer design.
Right.
You know, it might be major, it might be minor, but then you approve all the changes I made.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because I can make changes, but I can't just totally change the whole panel schedule and like shift a whole bunch of loads different or anything like that. You know, like I can't just like put a bunch of stuff on the generator, you know, change a bunch of stuff to the grid, or you know, like I can make changes, but I can't make like major changes. You know.
For sure. And another thing I want to say, just to finish that up, is when you're looking at that, you had two options. You either protected the load or the conductor, and your equipment grounding conductor was based on that. So there was that. That's why 240.4B is that way. Now, if I was over 800 amps, now the overcurrent protection device, the conductors have to exceed the amperage rating of the conductors have to exceed the overcurrent protection device. So you would drop down on anything over 800 amps, but up to 800 amps, you're protecting that load or conductor. Just that alone ends the conversation. So these hypotheticals, you know, and you know, that's one of the things I try to always say, don't use hypotheticals, you know, and because when you start doing these hypothetical situations and somebody brings something up, I would have just stopped that question right off the bat. You either size for that load or the conductors, and then your equipment ground sized right in each one of those conduits. And then you're done.
I don't know if you heard it in the audio, but he actually says like, oh, maybe you could just do a load calculation and leave it at 600 amps. Like, why would he even ask you the question? If you
God.
It seems like we have Mr. G in the house. Looks like, by the way, Bill and James, it's official. I will complete my requirements for the JM test.
Awesome,
by December
brother.
2024, and I've been guaranteed a spot for the first round JM testing 2025. So, dude, that's awesome. If that is you, Mr. G, awesome.
I'm happy for you.
It doesn't show up. It just says Facebook user on our end. My bad, but if I would have known Mr. G was in the house, I would have said Mr. G's in the house.
All right, let's go to topic. Right. I've got a good topic this week.
All right, so sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your topic, but I just wanted to say myth is busted.
Myth is busted.
You can't size the minimum.
No, I mean, you could do the minimum for the load, but you can't dial up to 620 because you base the overcurrent protection device on the load, not the conductors. I mean, that's end of the argument. In my opinion, that's the end of it. But anyway, topic of the week. Well, what I did was I still see, I've seen on some different groups and stuff where people don't really understand the difference between a tap and secondary conductors. They get them confused. Now, I can understand this, especially with older electricians, you know, because we used to have this thing we used to say when you came off the secondary side of the transformer, we used to always say, I'll just tap the secondary side of the transformer. Everybody's heard that terminology. That doesn't mean it's a tap, okay?
Right.
And I remember being, when I was an inspector chief out in Grapevine, I went out to a job and they sized the conductors like a tap. And I was looking at it and I said, how'd you size that? Because it didn't look right to me. And he said, oh, we went upstream and took, it was a 10-foot tap, and we took, divided it by 10. And I said, well, that's not a tap. And he goes, yeah, that's a tap. I said, no. I said, that's a connection on the secondary side. A tap is where you're coming across, you got a feeder or something, and you come off of that feeder, tap off that feeder, and go do something. And
it is Mr. G. Oh, awesome.
Figured it was.
I know. We usually see you over on the YouTube side, but he's over on the Facebook side. So.
But what was funny is he told me, he goes, well, that's the way your dad taught it. And I said, well, hold on a minute. I said, we had pagers back in, and I sent him a text on the pager, and he said, I'd never told anyone that. And I said, you're more than welcome to call my dad. I said, but he's going to tell you the same thing I'm telling. And he goes, well, just tell me what I need to do to fix it. So we went in and I showed him how to size for the secondary side of that transformer. So I'm going to cover that this week, and I'm going to show the different rules and stuff. And now what's going to be interesting is you're going to see some of the same type wording that's used in each one of these. But one's a tap and one's a connection for the secondary side of the transformer. Okay?
Nice.
So when you look at 240.21, now, to make this easy to understand for everybody.
I like the feeder taps, so do we have to put like a fuse disconnect on it? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you know, if he comes down and he hits a disconnect and fuses it and then goes from there, then it's a feeder. Once you got two feeders on top of each other.
Okay.
That's what he said. I'm like, that's not true. So, and I think we debunked that. But when you go look at 240.21, when you pick up B, you're going to deal with taps. When you get to C, you're going to deal with your secondary conductors. Okay?
Right.
And I think it was back in, I'm trying to think about this. I think it was 99 or 2002, I think. But they went in and they actually rewrote this section because people were misapplying taps. So when you come over and you look at B1, these are your taps that are not over 10 foot. I'm not going to go through and read all this because I'm going to show a few different calculations on this so you don't get confused. But
dude, I always take a page out of your book when I do that. I'm like, you need to read this part and that part. That's it.
Yeah. Well, you know, and that's one of the things we do with this is we go through this and we try to be very specific so you understand what the rules are for this when you're taking and you're providing these calculations and how you go about doing it. And when you look at this, basically just think of it this way. I can read all this, but I did this a long time ago. I said, if you do taps, anything that's 10 foot or less, you're going to divide by 10. Everything else you take at a third. And if you have a transformer in the tap, then you got to get the ratio of the transformer for the secondary part of that calculation. And the primary's done at a third. And I'll show all that. But,
yeah, so we ran into a funny thing with that exception where there was a surge protection device that had number 14 going to it. And it was on a 30 amp.
Oh, wow.
And they were causing all kinds of grief and saying that it was this big code violation and all this stuff. And we did some extensive research on it, and come to find out, 100% legal. You could put like the smallest size you want on a surge protected device because there's no load on it, and the load is paralleled with the SPD. So
right.
That was a pretty interesting thing that I found out. So just
okay. And if you look at B4, it comes down and it tells you then capacity of conductors is not less than 1/10 the rating of the overcurrent device. So that's where I get to divide by 10. Okay.
Right.
So just to prove this, here's your calculation. It's very simple. We got a 600 amp upstream, divide by 10 gives you 60 amps. I go over, look at table 310.16. You come down 75 degree column, pick up 60 amps. It'll tell you need number 6. Now that 60 amps is the minimum. I can go all the way up to 600, but once I get to 600, it's no longer a tap at that point. But anything from 60 amps up, I can tap off of that feeder. Okay. Now, if I come to the next one and you look at taps not over 25 foot, B21, it tells you the ampacity of the tap conductors is not less than what? 1/3. Okay. So I come over and I look at doing 1/3. I just take 600 amps at a third, gives me 200 amps. So it's telling me there I can go from 200 amps all the way up to 600 amps. Okay. Once I'm at 600 amps, it's no longer a feeder, of course. So 200 amps up. And if I go over to table 310.16, a 3/0 is good for 200 amps in the 75-degree C column. Okay. Now, look at this. This is where you're doing a tap that's not over 25 foot long, and I have a transformer in that tap. Now, if you look at B31, it tells you for the primary side of that transformer, you have to take it at a third rating of the overcurrent protection device. Okay. Then, if you come down and you look at 2, it says the conductor supplied by the secondary. Okay. What first one was primary, third secondary of the transformer. It tells you it'll have an ampacity that's not less than the value of the primary to secondary voltage ratio. So I'm gonna have to get the ratio of the transformer, and then I take it at a third. Okay. So it's a
question
yeah.
for you. Is there any length on the primary tap on that? Because it says 25 foot long, but it taps applying the. But
it's
if it's an outdoor,
it's all within 25 foot.
But
that's why
outdoor,
it says primary plus secondary, not over 25 foot.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
And then after you come off that secondary, you go, of course, as long as you need to. All right.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if I look at the primary, I got a 300 amp overcurrent device upstream. I take it at a third, that's 100 amps. I go over to table 310.16, 75-degree C column, and need a number 1. Now, right here in step 3, when I'm doing that secondary, I have to take and get the ratio of the transformer. I have a 480 volt primary and a 208 volt secondary. So I'm going to divide that 208 volt into that 480 to get that ratio. And then I will take the amperage and a third of that, and that'll give me 231 amps. And if I go over and pick up my conductors, this one we're actually doing aluminum. We pick up our aluminum size conductor, you need at least a 350 kc mil conductor for that secondary. Okay.
Yeah, I think Juan, what he's talking about is the tap ratio is 33%.
Yeah, the tap is 33%. That's the ratio they put on there. But when I have a transformer, you got to get the ratio of the transformer. And let me see exactly what that is. I think I know what it is, but I don't want to give something. I'd be doing that off the top of my head. So 208. Yeah, that's what I thought. 2.307 would be the ratio of the transformer for the secondary side.
Nice. All right, thanks, Juan. Appreciate it. Good question.
All right. Now look at this. This is taps over 25 foot up to 100 foot. And if you look at B42, it tells you not over 100 foot long. But the interesting part is in B43, it says not less than what? A third. So this goes back to what I said earlier. Anything that's a 10 foot or less, divide by 10. Everything else you take at a third for the tap, except for where I have a transformer. It's still third on the primary, third secondary, but I got to have the ratio of the transformer also.
Nice.
Okay? So I'm not going to go through all that. I'm just trying to show the difference. Yeah. So cool. In this one, you got a 400 amp overcurrent device upstream. Take it at a third. That's 133.3 amps. I'm going to do it based on a copper conductor. Look in the 75-degree C column. A 1/0's good for 150 amps, and you sized it. So that's the minimum. Okay, that means right here I would do, based on this, I'd put a 150 in, and I could go up all the way to a 400. 400 amp overcurrent device. Okay, but once you go to 400, it's no longer a tap.
So would I be what case would I be permitted to tap a 10-foot section of, like, let's just say number 14 gauge from 150 amp main to, let's just say, a 15 amp receptacle? Would that be permitted, or would I have to have a overcurrent?
I don't know why you would do that. I've never seen that before.
I'm just asking, like, would it be permitted, or would I have to go to like a fused?
Well, usually when they're doing taps, they're coming off a good size overcurrent protection device and feeder upstream, and they're going down, setting another panel board or hitting, or coming off a bus duct and going hitting gear or something. Usually don't see it for things. The only time you get into those type of taps, you're looking at 210.1984. I think it's exception 3. You go over there, and that's where you're tapping off when you're in a house, for instance. They do allow those types.
I was trying to justify Willie Jackerson's suicide cord that he hooks up for every service change, and
that's something totally different, and that's over in branch circuits. It has nothing to do with the upstream overcurrent device.
Nice. All right.
Okay.
Well, cool. I wasn't trying to interrupt your day.
Oh, no worries. Now,
I was trying to justify Willie because I think he's been in here a lot.
If you look at this is where I talked about C, and I said you're looking at your transformer secondary conductors, and you're going to see it says not over 10 foot long. And that's what I was saying. You're going to see a lot of the same terminology, but one thing you're not going to see here is, do you see anywhere in there where it talks about a third? No.
Nope.
It's not in there. Okay. And you come in here. If I look at for field installations in 4, it goes in the vault in which it supplies blah, blah, blah. It says it shall have an ampacity that is not less than the value of the primary to secondary voltage ratio multiplied by 1/10 the rating of the overcurrent protection device. So you come in here, I've got to get that. And if I'm going to come on that secondary side, you'll see I've got to get what the transformer rating is for that secondary side. So if I have a 70 kVA transformer, and now take that 70,000, I've got on the secondary 208 volts times 1.732 will give you 360. Divide that 360 volts. I'm just rounding it up. That'll give you 194.4 amps. So at the minimum on there, that secondary has to be at least 200 amps.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just letting you know, you can't pipe to a transformer.
Yeah. And if I go over there for a 200 amp overcurrent protection device, it tells me I have to run based on that size overcurrent device per table 310.16, and I pick up the 75 degree C terminals. It's going to tell you need at least a 3-aught conductor. Nice. Okay. And that's how you size for the secondary side. Now look at this. I'm going 25 foot long. Look at here. Same calculation. I didn't change anything. I've got a 200 kVA transformer. Divide that 200 times 1,000. You got 360 for the secondary. That gives you 555 point amps. That means you need a 600 amp overcurrent device. And in order to protect that, we took and did 3 parallels, a 3-aught, which equals 600 amps, and that takes care of it.
Yeah, and you only need a 2-aught aluminum.
That's it. And that's what I'm saying. If you look at the way I'm doing this, one is secondary conductors, and the other is what? Taps. Same thing here. This, let me go back one. I just went forward a little too quick. If I look at this is outside secondary conductors. Okay? Well, look at this. I don't care if it's outside, inside, whatever. Do I still do the same calculation?
Yep.
Yeah. This one's a 750 kVA transformer. You got 480 volts times 1.732. I think that's like 831 volts. I'll divide that into it. That's going to give you 903 amps. Now, this is an interesting one. Why can I take and go to a 900 amp overcurrent device and not?
Because you drop down.
That's right. Because 240. That's why we do these different calculations to make people think. Because if you go look at 240.4C, anything over 800 amps, you can't exceed the calculated load of the conductors. Therefore, I drop down to the next standard size, which is a 900 amp overcurrent device.
Nice.
And isn't that interesting? That went right in with everything we talked about, the parallel runs earlier today, didn't we? In the myth of the week.
Yeah. And to me, I just couldn't believe that somebody was out there on YouTube just going out there telling all this stuff. And to me, it's nothing. I mean, this certain individual likes to call me out a lot for questioning, like, hey, where does it say that in the code? And they won't say anything in the code or give me any code references. They'll just block me, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, all right.
And one of the things I like to point out when you're looking at stuff like that, you know, you listen to me do it, it sounds easy. And the reason it is easy, you just have to remember what it is you're doing. If it's a tap, remember these rule of thumbs. Anything 10 foot or less, divide by 10. Everything else, take it a third. And if you got a transformer in the tap, that the tap's not over 25 foot for the primary plus secondary, that the primary is a third, and then on the secondary it's a third, but you got to get the ratio of the transformer. And if it's not a tap, then you just do a normal calculation on the secondary side based on the kVA of the transformer and the voltage, and you've got it sized. You know, and I think a lot of people, like when they're going taking tests or they're out trying to think of something, you overthink things sometimes. And if you just keep it simple and think of the basic principles like that, you shouldn't have any problem understanding it.
Oh yeah.
And that's why you use Stalkit publications.
See?
Cha-ching.
See? Oh. Hey, you got 4. You got 4 C's. All right.
All right.
But no, the whole thing is that, I mean, I really don't really care. Like, if people want to go out there and say things that, you know, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I enjoy doing what I do. I post code questions every Sunday. I try as hard as I can to fool James as much as I can, you know. And the thing is, like, James isn't like a big head. Like, he doesn't care if I like fool him a few times. Like, maybe like 5 weeks in a row. Like 5 weeks in a row, you got 0 correct, you know. But at the same time, it's like, you know, you went 5 for 6 in the last 2 weeks. So, you know, obviously, I'm making them too easy. So
it's for 3 this week.
I gotta step up my game. You know what I mean? But you know, like, dude, I got pressure from Dominic. Dominic's in here. Dominic's like, man, you got a full stock up this week. I'm like, all right. And I was like, all right, let's answer this. And dude, I didn't tell nobody the answer to nothing. So I got the official answer from 811 Colorado Utilities.
Okay.
So I actually have official documentation from them. Some of the apprentices were like, nah, you're wrong on that. That's not right. I'm like, okay, whatever. I was like, go find out tonight. But
all right,
it's a lot of fun.
Well, before we get to that, let's get to your tool of the week.
All right.
Throw the new one.
It's time for Tool Review of the Week. Sponsored by Electricians Only Tool Review and Nipex Tradesman.
All right.
I'm just curious, did you like my new drill? It attaches to your arm and you drill like this. I did a futuristic tool.
Dude, I'm telling you, if I had that tool, then we wouldn't need to be doing these tool reviews anymore. I'd be like,
on the middle of it, through the middle, it shoots a laser out, and then you got 2 on the side there that shoot out, so you always know you're in line.
Okay. I just thought it was a picture of me flipping you off. But, you know, I was totally wrong. I was not even close. But
I tell you, I've been designing all these new logos and everything, and it's actually fun. going through and putting all this stuff together. I think a lot of people are going to like all the merch and stuff that they're able to get.
That would be kind of cool if it was like futuristic, like middle finger kind of undercover, like I'm not saying that I would do that, but I mean, that's pretty cool.
Well, that's fine. And some of y'all that didn't see the first of the podcast, if you go back, you'll see all the new icons and the stuff that'll be on mugs, tumblers, shirts, and tons of stickers on there. So if you're interested in any of that, go back and watch the first of the podcast.
So this week I'm covering Milwaukee, and this thing saved my butt a while back. I wanted to run it. It's a really nice tool. I really like it. Not all these tools have to just be for electrical. Not all these tools just have to be for work. You could actually use this tool for, like James knows, I go out to the racetrack a lot. And it's really nice to be able to adjust your tire pressures for like the temperature, the track temperature, stuff like that. But as well, there's a lot of other things for it. But I really like this. I thought it was probably one, like James knows, I'm not a real fan of the red, but I thought this was a really good tool for Milwaukee that it seemed like it pumped up really fast. It was accurate. Pressure-wise, it was accurate. I really liked it. This is probably one of the tools I will be toting around with my race car to just adjust my tire pressures and stuff like that. And I really liked it. I thought it was a really amazing tool to have hanging around. And like I say, I don't have too many red batteries, but like I would be willing to go buy like possibly a 9 amp hour just to toss on this baby, and then just I could use it for camping or 4-wheeling or whatever. But I really like this thing, and I 100% say it's probably one of the better tire inflators on the market right now.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't always cover just electrical tools. Like I cover all tools, but
yeah.
I enjoy that one. That one works good.
Okay.
But this is time to stump the stall cub.
Question of the week. All right. Yep. Let's see what we got. All right. According to 2020, the answer would be D. One of the things you got to worry about this question is in some areas, you got to, like California, I think is a good one. You would have to support to the framing member stuff, and they got hurricane clips for that and everything. But overall, just based on 2020, I'd have to say that's D.
Yeah, so Juan actually is proud of me like doing a little bit of Milwaukee in here. Juan can't see the question. So Juan, according to the 2020 NEC recessed lay-in type fixtures installed in acoustic grid ceiling shell blank, A, be supported independently by the ceiling grid, B, not be attached to the ceiling grid framing members, C, be attached to the building support framing members, D, be attached to the ceiling framing members by bolts, screws, rivets, or listed clips, or E, all the above, which I throw in the all the above as a joke because my apprentice used to always say that. Every question he'd be like, all the above, all the above. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to start putting it in. I mean, there's no way it's possible it's all the above. But James nailed it 100%. The answer is D. Code reference is 41036B.
I thought that was right. Yeah, I've had that brought up to me before. Somebody had asked me that, and I knew because I've done a lot of classes out in California. And they said, do we need to put those on there? I said, not if local amendment doesn't say you have to. And they said, well, we do have that, and we got to put those clips on there. And I said, well, earthquake clips in that area, so that is true.
Dude, I only got you on one so far on the question.
And I actually had it right. I was like, I knew the exact section. I couldn't remember if they changed it or not. And I was like, God, that's one I don't remember. But I gave both answers. That's what, and I said, let me go with this one because I think it changed.
Well, I'm going to make it really easy on you for the Willie Quiz.
Yeah, that's a bunch of crap. All right, let me cue it up.
So the quiz this week is on Colorado 811, call before you dig, and I made it really super easy because James has the same exact Colorado before you dig over in Texas, but he just doesn't know it until I start asking these questions. But good luck, James. Here we go. Utilities are required to be buried at least blank inches below finished grade. 6 inches, 12 inches, 18 inches, 24 inches, or there is no depth requirement. Good luck, everyone. So one thing I want to say right away, this is a big disclaimer. I ran this question with a lot of guys at the job site, and they were like, "Oh, blah blah blah," based on the NEC. This is not based on the NEC.
That's
this
right.
is outside the NEC. This is utilities. So what is the minimum depth a utility can be buried in? It doesn't matter what utility. It's not just electric. Any utility.
I'm going with D.
D, 24 inches.
Yep.
All right, let's see if we have any more answers in the chat. I'm going to look through right now real quick and give people a couple more minutes. So, 24 inches, that is freaking amazing, James. What is the other answer that you would decide to go with that's not 24 inches?
It's not 24 inches, huh?
Nope. Juan comes in. Juan comes in with C, 18.
That was going to be my next one.
All right, so Juan picks James's second answer of C. All right, so James and Juan, what would be your other answer that would not be C and D?
Really? I thought, well, I was going off our OSHA publication. I thought the utility stuff, I thought it was 24 inches.
So the answer for Colorado, I don't know, it could be different elsewhere, but it is actually B, 12 inches is the minimum cover requirement for all utilities. I was surprised when I saw that, and I was like, oh, I'm going to fool James on this one. I'm going to fool James and Mr. G on this one.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that.
All right, gotcha.
Right, go to the next one. Damn it.
All right, so in the Colorado 811, there are a bunch of board members, and they are represented by different organizations. Which one of these is not a board member organization that's not represented for the Colorado Underground Dig? Is it A, water and sanitation, B, farm and ranch, C, gas distribution, D, cable television, or E, steam transfer? Good luck, everyone. right, so right away, James, I'm gonna let you know. Juan fires off right away with double B. He went B twice for Farm and Ranch. So
Not me. I'm going E.
E. All right. So Juan goes B. So Juan could actually take a win if he not take a win, but he could get one right and take a lead if he gets Farm and Ranch. James takes Steam Transfer. So one of you is correct, and it is James. And I can't believe you got me on that one. Like, actual Steam Transfer is an actual utility.
I know it is.
They're just not represented on the board right now. Oh man!
I honestly thought Farm and Ranch would be because of irrigation and stuff. That's why I left them out.
Right.
Sorry, Juan.
Yeah, they're trying to get them on. Like, so they are actually being represented because they're trying to get them to like dig more. Like, they're trying to get them to call locates more for like putting in fence posts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, because like they don't do it. But man. All right. So James is 1-1.
No matter what, I'm going tie tonight.
Yeah. All right. We got it. All right. So. This is a good one. How long are the utility locates good for? A, 24 hours as long as the marks are visible. B, 7 days as long as the marks are visible. C, 14 days as long as marks are visible. Or D, 30 days as long as the marks are visible. And James didn't put in E, forever.
Oh,
but
I must have accidentally missed that.
Yeah, I had an E, forever.
Okay, all right.
I like that one. I wanted the forever in there. That would be funny.
Okay.
But forever could be ruled out because they're not good
Okay.
forever. But
Here we
that
go.
would have been funny. All right. Well, Juan comes out of the gate with a instant B answer to try to tie the game with Stall Cup, and he says 7 days as long as the marks are visible. Great answers. Great answer, Mr. G.
I was actually going to go with D.
D.
Mm-hmm.
30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So. When we look at our contestants in here, James could actually take the second correct answer if D is correct. And he's right! It's 30 days as long as the marks are correct. So, sorry, Juan. Sorry, but I might have told James too much. Like, I should have kept him in the dark more. I might have told him too much. I might have gave it away.
I guessed at every one of those. It was all a guess. It wasn't like I knew. I guessed. I just, I honestly thought if they come out and did it, it's got to be good for at least a month. I mean, I just, that's why I thought that. But the other one, I just did process of elimination. What I thought, and I thought, well, why would they have somebody from Steam? I think that's it.
Dude, they actually do. There is actually, that's how I got it, was there actually is a underground industry that's Steam. Like when I saw it, I was like, whoa, that's an actual real thing. Like, I was like, Steam transmission? So, like, you actually have to get underground locates for Steam transmission,
Yeah.
But they don't have a board member that's actually represented on the panel right now. But I just
thought
it was
it
funny.
up, brother. I'm 7 for 9.
Yeah, dude, you're killing it. I mean, just the fact I got you on one makes me happy. So I just need to quit talking to you on the off times and telling you all ideas.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Yeah, Juan. I think that's what it is. I think you have an unfair advantage. Like you're taking him out because you're in the central and he's over in the east coast. Like maybe it's time zone.
Well, that was Colorado. He's mountain. I'm central. So,
Yeah.
All right.
It's all good. Congratulations. You got 66%. Still fail.
Ain't much room for missing, is there?
Yeah. I got
All right.
you.
Wall of shame, baby. Let's see what we got this week.
Shame. 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 Shame.
It is my honor to present an actual Willie Jackerson install. When I saw this, I saw this at the gas station. I was like, what? I was like, did they actually use a conduit bender on this? Like, I was blown away. Like, I mean, you should like blow it up full size if you can on the next one. Like that.
I don't know if I can do that. Did it increase?
Yeah, like it's basically like the center of the screen is the picture, and like there's two sides that, like, it'd be better if you had like a full screen on that picture. Like,
I can't do that on here. I have to.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, yeah. So,
that's true.
Yeah. And the thing is that, geological. Okay, yeah, I got you, brother. Yeah, and that's part of that question. If you have like a seismic design on your acoustical ceiling, then that's gonna change some things. But at the same time, I've been looking for a lot of code references in that building department aspect to try to see where I find that code reference. So far, I haven't found a single code reference that says anything about supporting light fixtures in anywhere. You know, and I actually won an argument with the Denver inspector, and a lot of people know his name because of basically he's got a name in Denver for like not making people pass, so I won't say his name. But he's a good friend of mine. I went to his classes a bunch of times, and he's a really good dude. He was always enforcing us put ceiling wires on recessed cans.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up to him, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna call him out, you know. And the reason I did, because I knew him. I knew he's a cool dude, you know. And so I was like, I'm gonna call him out. And so he comes up to me, and he's like, dude, he's like, Bill, man, he's like, we got problems here. I was like, yeah, what's up? He's like, none of this shit's done the way I want it. And I was like, all right. I was like, what do you want? And he's like, well, I want this. And I said, all right. I said, well, show me where they put the place to put this ceiling wire on a recessed can.
Right.
He's like, well, you know, it doesn't matter. Just put it through one of the arms. Put it through one of the things over here. Just put it through whatever. And I was like, really? Like, is it listed for that? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, where is the ceiling wire place on a can?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just in case of emergency, bro, you know? And I was like, okay. I was like, well, show me in the code where just in case of emergency, you have to put a ceiling wire through this arm that's not listed to have the ceiling wire going through there, you know?
Right.
And I was like, if they put a ceiling wire spot on there, just tell me where it is so I can put it on there, you know? And he's like, all right, dude. He's like, you're good. He's like, just do it on the rest of them. I was like, all right. You know, but it was really funny because it was like, yeah, I didn't attack him. I just said, I just want to see you in the code. And like me and him are really good friends. Like we get along great, you know. Like I talk to him all the time. I see him, you know, downtown Denver all the time. We wave to each other all the time, you know.
Right.
And he respects me a lot. I've never failed an inspection with this guy, you know. And
Yeah.
he just goes, you know what? He goes, I just want you to, you know, do this. And I said, well, I just want you to show me the code reference. And he respects me. And like, dude, there's inspectors that walk up to the job site with the code book in their hand. And they're like, all right, what are you gonna teach me today? I was like, yeah, go look at 41069, you know. And then they're like, what? You can't do that anymore? I was like, nope. You know. And
Yeah.
it's cool, you know. But that wall of shame picture is totally epic. That was installed at a gas station, and when I saw it, I instantly thought of Willie. I was like, somebody's watching Willie's, you know, videos, you know. But
I can't believe Willie did that.
I don't know if he did it or if he just inspired it.
I think I might be a little nervous to take and pump gas there. No telling what they did at the gas pumps.
True. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was one gas station that we had this guy was working on, and they couldn't get fish tapes through the conduits, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started going in there looking, and there was just no J boxes, you know? And so then we started calling him 720, because he went 720 degrees between pole points.
720, baby.
Yeah, they're like, hey, what's up, 720? What's up, bro? Like, I don't think he really embraced it as great as we did, but you know, the whole thing is like doing what we're doing is just like so much fun, and you know, like it's really awesome to have Juan Gonzalez jump in here, Mr. G in the house. Brian Wood jumped in tonight. Really awesome to see Brian Wood jump in here. Brian Woods actually said that he really likes the podcast and stuff. I think this is the first time he's jumped in.
Cool.
You know, David Englehart's jumped in here. Really awesome. Have David Englehart jump in. David Englehart, you will be getting your Stall Cup electrical education packet in the email here coming really soon.
Yeah, we're kicking
you
along,
will be
boy.
You will be a lifetime member. We will not delete you for any reason.
I'll tell you, all the stuff that's going on right now and all the cool items we got coming out and the colored publications, and I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, those publications look amazing, and I've always wanted to do it. You know what I mean? And now that it's come together, I mean, just like the illustrations that I'm showing in these presentations, that's what you see in the book. I mean, they're highly detailed, step by step, and all the text and the headings. One of the things I did on the PDF is you've got your chapters. You can click, and it'll take you right to the chapter. But I even took inside the chapters and have a topic index for the chapters even that you can click to go to what you want within the chapter. It makes it much quicker. So I've put a lot of information to it.
Mr. G says Mr. E needs to send him a subscription to the IEI magazine. So awesome. Yeah, we love the IEI magazine. So that's really awesome that we could all be connecting like this. And just shout out to David.
We had done a couple articles. It's been a long time ago for out. You know, we used to write articles for EC&M magazine. Dad and I were doing that way before Mike ever thought about it. And then we moved over from there. And when NFPA came out with NEC Digest, we were doing it for them till they decided they wasn't making enough money, I guess. So they decided to end that. And so we just decided at that point it took too much time to write all them articles and stuff. And back then it wasn't like it is today. You know, you can email it. You actually, when we started, you actually had to mail the copy over to them, and they sent you the edit back, and you'd go through it and send it back, and then they publish it. It wasn't done through emails and all that. And and the reason you had to do that, because if you remember back in when we were doing it, it was dial-up. You get, and if you had to send any picture or something, it'd take you forever to send a picture across that. So we started, we mailed everything back and forth with the pictures we wanted, and then they would have to take the scan down the illustration from the printer and then stick it in for the article. And that's how long we've been doing it. So
interesting thing too, like when you go into the RLPs, RLCs, all that stuff, they have like in-person meetings, had all these changes, and this is the first time that we're going into like the 2026 with like the digital age. We're putting in these public inputs and stuff, and they're like instantly sending us a screenshot of our public input. Like, really? You serious on this?
Oh yeah.
And to me, it's funny because I'm just like, really? I was like, wow, is that fast? So like back then, like they'd have to mail it back. Like, yeah, well, code-making panel 17 isn't really happy with what you said here, and code-making panel 5 doesn't agree with what you said. You know what I mean? But now we're hearing it all around, like, oh wow,
Hell, I remember when you used to have to go through, and they'd send the NFPA'd send the ROP books out, and those damn things are 3-4 inches thick, and you had to go in and literally look at every freaking change back and forth, and because you may have a change that's over in another code making panel that tied back in, and you get your list set up, and you had to go through all of that, and then you get the ROC would come in, and that damn thing was 2 to 3 inches thick, and you had to go through all that. And it was no wonder back then why nobody wanted to write any code change books. Matter of fact, we were the only ones there for a long time because there was so much on it.
Yeah, it looks like Juan's giving a shout out to Jake Riddle. Awesome, Jake Riddle. Yeah, big EV guy, and Article 625. We got some stuff in there this cycle. Like, I propose to not just GFCI protect receptacles, but also GFCI protect outlets, because they're the same thing, right?
Well, that's interesting. I'm going to find that interesting this coming cycle, because I don't think the code-making panel is going to agree that you have to provide double GFCI protection. I just don't see that.
I agree.
So, but we'll see.
I agree with that.
What?
Yeah, no, awesome for everyone joining. Really good time doing these every week. Have a blast doing them. Thanks for joining, Dominic. Thanks for joining everyone that joined tonight. Really awesome. David Englehart. Really means a lot,
It does. I just see Daddy's over going, he wants to go eat. So.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Mr. G, we will continue to argue about that topic, that they are not the same thing. They are not the same definition. And
well, I did a podcast. We did a podcast a while back, and I went over my proposals. And the way I set it up was basically, if you say there's an outlet there, then basically you don't need the definition of receptacle outlet. And I went through all that, so I put them sort of in a little bit of a bind right there on how they're going to have to answer that. But I did it on purpose, because if you're going to say one thing, then this, you got to get rid of this. If you say this, and you got to have this, and the way I laid it out and everything tied in with what you did on the other spectrum of it. I think hopefully we'll get all this clarified for the 2006 edition.
So just so everyone knows, what I did on my end was I asked for a definition on individual branch circuit to include outlet. So right now, individual branch circuit ends at utilization equipment, which is fine. it's never been a problem for since 1940s. But now all of a sudden they go say, oh no, that's connected to an outlet, and then I'm like, okay, cool, just add it to the definition, and they don't want to do it. So
Yeah,
go figure.
I wonder why.
Yeah. No, but I appreciate everyone joining. Thanks for everyone. Been a great show. And remember, make every day an easy day.
Amen. All right, everybody. Y'all have a good week. Enjoy the football this weekend. Go Longhorns. Hope y'all kick it. Oh, and a big shout out to those freaking Texas Rangers World Series champions, baby. Down here in Texas, we rule. Now, I was reading one of the things, and one of the guys said he was up in Boston, and he went over, and they went to a sports bar there. He said even the people in Boston were high-fiving each other, cheering for the Rangers to win. Everybody wanted them to win because they never won a World Series, all the years and years and years. And around here, I had gone up to the pool hall last night to catch. I got there right when he hit that shot and the guy missed it. I had just come in. I hadn't been there more than 2 minutes, and I was walking in and I was watching, and because I just left the house and it went past him. The crowd erupted. And then right after that, they come up and he hit that 2-run blast. Everybody was like, we're going to do it. And I mean, everybody was all hugging each other because, Ranger fans had nothing ever to be excited about.
Nice. Austin, Mr. G, thanks for joining.
Thanks, brother.
And congratulations to Hook 'em Horns. Hook 'em Horns. I will hook horns 100% of the time with Mr. Stallcup because
that's my team, baby.
Got the metal horns up.
Amen.
I always say that. Horns up.
Horns up, and we got to beat Philadelphia this week.
Cowboys
got to beat them. I don't know if they can, but we'll see.
Yeah, should be a good game, but Broncos won.
They did.
Broncos
whipped San Francisco.
Yeah, we gotta get hit San Fran, but appreciate everyone joining this week. And awesome show. Make sure you tell Pops my Hook 'em Horns for me.
I will.
It's a little different. I have like different fingers, but it's the same thing. It's kind of like an I love you. He knows it.
No worries. Okay, everybody. Brother. Well, everybody have a good week. We'll see y'all next Thursday.
Peace.